and welcome to the PocketGamer.biz podcast week in mobile games, where we talk about the week's news and hopefully provide some insights. As usual, I'm Craig Chapple, head of content at PocketGamer.biz, and with me today, our news editor, Aaron Astle. How you doing? You've got something to talk about?
I do, yes. Visual listeners then may have noticed already, but I got a little bit burnt recently. We've had some sunshine in the UK, which is very abnormal, and I dared to go outside in it and got quite burnt. So I'm looking a little bit laid back and casual today in a vest with some slightly pink shoulders that I can actually touch now without flinching, so that's an improvement. But yeah, the sun came out, so I ended up having like a family barbecue one of the days over the weekend and went out to wildlife park. Even the lions came out, it was that hot. Not out of their enclosures, but out of hiding.
Yeah, that'd be slightly more terrifying.
But yeah, anyway, so I've been actually going outdoors and not just stuck at my computer screen, but as a result, my pale skin has not appreciated it, basically.
The dangers of the outside world, Aaron.
Yeah.
It's your own fault, I presume? No sun cream.
So it's arguably worse than that. I took sun cream and then I thought, it's warm, but there's kind of like cloud cover. So I'll take it around with me and I'll put it on if the sun actually comes
those
out.
UV rays, the cloud.
They can't get through the clouds.
Achilles heel.
So yeah, I carried it round all day, and then when I got home, I was like, I got burnt actually.
That's tragic. But you're doing better now.
Yeah, on the mend.
It's happened to us all. We once went to GDC in San Francisco, and with a bunch of the team, we did a boat tour around Alcatraz and the Golden Gate Bridge. It was like low 20 degrees. So I just didn't even think about it. Didn't put any sun cream on. And anyway, by the evening, my face was red. And then I was like, it was so embarrassing because then I thought, I've now got a week of interviews and networking and meeting people, and I've got this bright red face. Anyway, as for me, I've had a few days off. I mostly played StarCraft, as is typical. I really didn't want to do much, so I just sort of stayed at home. And then I'm straight back into, this is like my third podcast in 24 hours, so people see me wearing the same shirt. I don't wear this all the time. It just ended up recording these back to back. But we have some cool stuff coming out. Did another game design podcast with Oscar Clark on King Shot. That'll come out in the next couple of weeks. And then we just interviewed myself and Peggy, also host of the podcast. We interviewed Nitish, the joint MD at Nazara Technologies. They obviously recently, they've been on a very big M&A spree and recently acquired Curve Studios in the UK. So there's a lot to talk about there, some really interesting stuff. Right, we're going to cut straight to it. As usual, a few shout-outs. We've got the PGC Summit Shanghai, July 30th. So if you're interested in speaking, joining, let us know. That's just a month away. At the same time, just after that, there'll be China Joy. And I think we have some sort of deal on that, so do check that out. PGC Helsinki, October 7th to 8th. PGC Aqaba, November 8th and 9th. And then you've got PGC Bangkok, October 15th, which is a week after Helsinki. We've got the MGAs coming, Mobile Games Awards during Gamescom. And we also have the Pocket Gamer Connects party coming up. We've got lots of stuff coming up, and we'll be doing plenty at Gamescom. So, right, we'll cut to the news. So there's a few interesting stories this week. One of the, I think, for the UK games industry, and I've said some of this stuff before about growing international hubs, but I'll go into a bit of that as well. So the UK government has launched a £30 million games growth package. It will provide £10 million annually over the next 3 years to support startup studios. It will also expand the UK Games Fund to help young developers and early stage studios bring their games to market. A new industry-led UK Video Games Council will also be formed, made up of representatives from across the sector. The group will establish closer a link to decision makers with the aim to work with the government and the Creative Industries Council to help drive growth for the UK games industry. And then there's a few other bits. So meanwhile, the government hopes to strengthen the skills pipeline and help projects attract match funding from private investors. A new UK game skills network will be created to publish a strategy for tackling persistent skills gaps and create pathways to the industry. So with that one, Gina Jackson last year released a really interesting skills gap report, and it's been a kind of a problem for a long time. Whilst getting new talent into the industry, it's kind of a perennial problem in terms of one, teaching the right skills, but also just the amount of jobs available to the amount of graduates we have. But the other issue is like beyond that, certain levels, there's not enough people to fulfill maybe some more senior roles or mid-level roles. So this is designed to help fix that. And I think Gina Jackson herself said in a comment on LinkedIn, it's just like, that would explain why a bunch of people from the DCMS, which is the Department for Culture, Media and Sport in the UK government, have downloaded that report recently or requested to download it. And then, meanwhile, there'll also be the London Games Festival is going to get a funding boost on top of that. So overall, it's part of a larger creative industries package. So the government aims to invest 380 million into the country's creative industries, with 150 million pounds earmarked for regional investment. So that could potentially provide extra investment for games as well, beyond the 30 million that's been set aside. There's lots going on. This all around, this is fantastic news. This is, well, as always, this kind of thing is just like years in the works. It's kind of like a little bit reminds me, it's not quite the same now, I guess, but the years and years campaigning of Tiger and Yuki, which are the UK games industry trade bodies. There's two of them. Technically, there's a third. Scottish Games Network. The years that kind of goes into getting the government to notice how important your industry is. It took a long time to get tax breaks. They kind of came very late because a lot of talent had left to Canada, which had very attractive tax rates, which is kind of how Ubisoft has been able to grow into this global powerhouse. So it shows how kind of important those incentives can be. And if you aren't competing, then you're behind, basically. So we've already got that. Anyway, that changed to the name changed to something else, but we still got tax breaks. Video games tax credit, slightly different. But yeah, anyway, this is all good news. But the only thing is, obviously, how is this going to look over the next few years? How much of an impact does it actually make? We'll see. The other thing I just wanted to say is that on that topic of the years that goes into making this stuff and how important it is, you could kind of see that in, Turkey has really good kind of tax incentives. One developer did reach out to me and said it's not quite what you think, because it's like almost like tax free, I think, for studios there, but maybe the government could end up claiming back all that money. I don't know how true that. And then, so that I think that's been a kind of a big part in helping Turkey grow. Obviously, you've got like financial incentives in the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, because they're really trying to grow their industries. It's quite extreme, the amount of money they're investing in games and tech, because they're really trying to speed up that whole process. And then I was obviously in Brazil recently, and they have spent so long trying to get the government to notice their industry. They're finally in a position where they've got the I can't remember what it's called now. The video games framework or something, which basically is kind of almost the first step after all these years that they've been trying to get the industry noticed with Big Festival. Now it's part of Games on the TAM, which does a great job. They actually pay investors, they pay publishers, media for travel to come out. That's a big investment because you need that to grow the industry. And now maybe the future could be they'll get some tax credits, maybe more incentives. But it's really important. Without that, you're kind of screwed. And I think obviously you also get some big companies that emerge that would kind of be fine, but you really need that support. And lastly, in Finland, for example, now, it's not because of this, but obviously Finland's industry is struggling, and some of the support that they used to get no longer exists. I think at a national level and within Helsinki, other states, I believe, can still do some incentives, but there's less support there, and it's come at the wrong time for Finland's industry, right? It's come at the time where, okay, they've helped the industry grow, but now it's struggling a bit more, like layoffs, studio closures, like everywhere. And it's come at the wrong time, so now maybe if they need that investment, it's not as easy to get as it once was. At least this was true last year. So basically wanted to say, great news for the UK, how important this stuff is and how difficult it is to get. I believe this is what like the trade bodies wanted, like some of the things that have happened here that had actually been requested and that they've got. So they've got kind of the tools that they need to address some of the issues in the industry. So yeah, good news. So Aaron, what have you got?
Yeah, so my first story today is about a Roblox game, which is called Grow a Garden. Hit a very impressive concurrent user record of 21.3 million people. This was on the 21st of June.
Not just people, concurrent users.
Concurrent users, yeah. So that was the highest level ever seen on the platform, just for reference. Prior to Grow a Garden coming out this March, Roblox's record concurrent users for like one single experience wasn't even at 5 million. and now this game's surpassed 20 million. So crazy numbers, really. Since it's come out, it's like regularly set new records. So we covered in May that it had hit 9 million on one day, which was, that was a new Roblox record at the time. And yeah, now a month later, it's more than doubled that to this 21.3 million. And for a bit of context for the wider industry as well, this is also the most concurrent players that have been seen in any single like video game, like where that can be recorded then. So like it's beaten Steam's peak, which was 3.2 million with PUBG Battlegrounds. Again, this is all concurrent, not lifetime or anything. But yeah, Steam's peak is like 3.2 million. Fortnite's peak is apparently 15.3 million. So yeah, this Roblox game about like growing fruit and veg has beaten Fortnite's concurrent user count. It's currently averaging like 2.7 million concurrent users. So that 21.3 million figure isn't like the new standard that it's consistently hitting all the time. Like after an hour of being at that 21.3 million, it had already fallen down to 7.6, which is still like double Steam's like highest peak. But yeah, it's not the case that there are like 20 odd million people playing this at any one time all the time now. And so the average is just over 2.5 million, which is still a lot. Roblox strategy consultant James Burrell posted about it. And how well it's doing on LinkedIn. And he suggested that what should terrify every AAA studio executive is that it was built by indie developers in a fraction of the time it takes traditional studios to even greenlight a project, which is a kind of interesting observation. I guess what kind of implications it might have for indie projects on the whole, or even whether it sparks much change on the Roblox platform, I guess. We'll see as things develop. But I know that Roblox, we've covered before, that they have a goal to get like 10% of all games industry revenue, is it, going through the Roblox platform, which still seems like a crazy goal. But, if they can get a few grow gardens on there.
Well, they don't have the China market, right?
Mm.
Good luck. I mean, UGC is really, really interesting. UEFN, Roblox. And then this, I wonder if this is, I don't know, is this like a tipping point almost? We already know that these platforms are pretty big. Roblox still isn't profitable. Yeah, amazing. This I saw in general news media, it's getting picked up, right? That's massive. And it's not just a story about Roblox being terrible for kids. This is like a positive Roblox story. So it's amazing. People kind of comparing it to like Farmville, like this generation's kind of Farmville within a platform. So that's amazing. I guess that comment about what should terrify every AAA studio, I mean, ultimately, if it's attracting millions, 20 million, like, yeah, that's true, and it's made by a small team, which is an amazing thing about these UGC platforms, right? That anyone could technically create an experience. I know that there's some issues there that other reports kind of gone into, but it is kind of amazing that you can do that. The thing is that so you've got 21 million people concurrently, and then later 7, and then later 2 million. Right? They're still like amazing numbers. How much money is it making? I guess is the ultimate thing, right? That is, anyone could create stuff for these platforms, and then so if it's a small team and you make less money, that still works out for everyone. But you kind of did they change this? You make like a fraction really of what you would otherwise make if you release this on Steam or on an app store as its own thing. You make more money. And I get that Roblox, well, they take their cut, and then Apple takes its cut technically, and then they charge more for the platform as well. So the money the developer actually makes is kind of smaller. And then I don't know how much a game actually makes anyway, generally, in Roblox. Obviously, there's kids that have ended up being millionaires. People do pretty well out of it. But I guess the biggest question is, does this still make big AAA companies, does it actually scare them? So by time spent and users playing it, yeah, probably. But by money made, and is it taking money and users away from those other games? I'm not entirely sure that that's true currently. But I could be wrong. It was in news you said there's like there's like five games or whatever that everyone plays, and I think one of them's like before they actually play something else. I think one of them's Roblox, right? So. But yeah, like great news for the developer. I read it's like 16-year-old kid that made it. I could be wrong, which I think is the case. And maybe this will make more people, including me, take even more notice of UGC. Like, because again, I always say, like, name me the five top games in Roblox, or name me the five top games on UEFN that aren't Fortnite. And I don't think people will be able to do that. Whereas if I ask you what are top five PC, console, or mobile games, it's a lot easier. You could at least make a good guess. You could throw out some names. Whereas a Roblox, you probably get stuck after like 2 or 3.
Yeah. And apparently, Grow a Garden is currently the top earning game on Roblox, but I don't actually know. It's not that clear how much that means it's making.
Obviously, it means it's doing very well. And for the creators, I'm sure they're minted. Sorry, I'm not saying it's like, before anyone thinks that, I'm not saying it's like a failure or anything like that. It's a massive, massive success. I'm just saying the context of what you consider a mega hit in the industry in terms of revenue. Does it hit that mark? And then is that, combined with Roblox's terms, is that enough to actually attract bigger publishers and scare them about what they're currently doing? Right. Next up in the news, I'm going to actually go on to Netflix. According to, reported by What's on Netflix, the streaming giant added leaving soon notices to 22 games, with removals set for July 15th. Some of the notable games are the Monument Valley trilogy, and most interestingly, Monument Valley 3. I'm quite surprised by that.
Yeah, that surprised me.
Because I thought that was basically Netflix invested in making that game happen, and then seemingly the deal wasn't actually going to be out that long as a Netflix exclusive, or even it's not even that. It's actually just leaving Netflix, right? Which is wild. Interesting deal. So I took a look on AppMagic, and these games cumulatively got just under 25 million downloads. Which some of them, I mean, for a subscription service, it's just difficult to really tell how successful it is. Like, so Monument Valley, Netflix, which is the first one, about 2.9 million. Dumb Ways to Survive. So the report said Dumb Ways to Die, but I can't find that as a Netflix game on AppMagic. I can only find Dumb Ways to Survive, so I wonder if that was incorrect. But that's got 2.5 million, so if that's leaving at that. Monument Valley 3, about 2.5. Ludo King, 2.4. Hades, 1.8. And then a few of the others got over 1 million, and a lot of them, about half at least, I think, got under 1 million downloads. So, I mean, you're trying to grow your subscription platform. Some of these numbers are pretty poor, to be honest. Ghost Detectives, I'm now kind of surprised that that's leaving. I feel like it's a bit of... Obviously, Netflix has kind of been changing its game strategy, right? So maybe some of this is part of a result of that. I feel like it's a bit of an insight into, one, their changed strategy, but two, the kind of terms of the deals that they've had. So unless they've cancelled some of these deals, like, or maybe some of them were kind of a lot more limited than I would have thought they would have been. This is nothing new for like Netflix as TV film platform, right? Things enter, things leave, and then later they come back. There's like this weird thing of like Amazon Prime to Netflix. It's like, God, it's left Netflix. Now it's on Amazon Prime. Now it's left that, it's back on Netflix. Maybe you get like a situation where it comes back. I still don't really... Despite all the stuff that they come out with, I'm still not completely clear on their strategy. Maybe Squid Game's a better example of their strategy moving forward than these titles. Monument Valley 3 leaving so soon seems like a bit of a miss to me. But then, I don't know, is 2.5 million downloads enough engagement for Netflix? Maybe not. It comes off the back of, obviously, the GTA games left the platform as well. I think they left San Andreas. Those are like the biggest download drivers. And then when you think they're about to move back to their own IP and that, I'm sure there was a statement that was like, we could do stuff similar to that again. Any thoughts, Aaron, on Netflix game strategy?
It's an unpredictable strategy, I think, at times.
Agreed.
As you say, things like, the Squid Game, and they did like a Vikings Valhalla one a couple of years ago. Like, they make more sense to me where it's building on, one of their shows that they've invested in. But, it feels like a safer bet then that something like that isn't going to leave the Netflix games service. Probably, who knows? But yeah, everything else they do seems, a lot harder to kind of figure out what the strategy is. But yeah, the Monument Valley thing in particular did surprise me to see that 3 was leaving, because it's not even been out for that long, has it? Was it like December it came out?
I think so, yeah. So 6 months.
Yeah. And then I know earlier this year there was like a Nintendo Switch presentation where they showed that Monument Valley 1, 2, and 3 would be coming to Switch. not as an exclusive. It wasn't like it was changing hands, so to speak. But so I was surprised even with that like Monument Valley 3, it's a Netflix exclusive, but now it's going to be on the Switch. But yeah, the fact it's also now left or is leaving Netflix is really surprising. I don't know what to make of it, really.
I mean, I like, to be fair, you would expect stuff to leave with deals. It's just some of the names on there are surprising. And what are they really replacing it with? Maybe just titles more familiar with their new strategy. There's one on there like Ted Tumbleweed's Netflix, which I don't think did amazingly well. I wonder if that, obviously again that's just part of the deal, but that leaves, and then like they've got Netflix Puzzle in soft launch.
Right.
An eye on that replacing to some degree that. Ludo King, kind of surprised, although I was surprised it was on there to begin with, because it's driven so many downloads in like India and the rest of the world. Right, what else have you got, Aaron?
Yes, the other one from me this week is that Cygames' Musume Pretty Derby has finally launched globally today, as of us recording this, so June 26th. So it's been a massive game in Japan that came out in February 2021. It's had like a good 4.5 years nearly as a almost Japan exclusive. I think it had a brief run in like South Korea. But this is its proper like global launch today then. And it's come after the game's already made 2.6 billion in Japan on mobile alone. It's based on AtMagic estimates. So yeah, it was Japan's top grossing game in 2021 and 2022. Its launch month back in 2021, it made 125.4 million, or its first full month rather, so March that year. So that was its best month ever on mobile. It still makes over 10 million every month. Sometimes it's quite a lot higher, but it's yet to ever go below 10 million. So yeah, hugely successful game. It has declined year on year, like every year since it's come out, and obviously got dethroned in 2023 then for Japan's top grossing title. But yeah, still a big hit that last year, just over a year ago, they finally like teased that there was going to be an English version. So just suddenly like an English version of the website went live, and Cygames started up an English Twitter account for it, and there was a YouTube like cinematic video that was in English, and then a demo came slightly thereafter to Anime Expo in LA. So we've known that this like English version was going to come for a while. They finally opened up like pre-registrations for it this April, which really kind of solidified, it is coming, and it was going to be releasing on iOS, Android, and Steam. And yeah, today it's finally here. So I doubt it's going to, find a new breakout audience outside of Japan, in my opinion. It's cool that they've released it for people that are interested in it. Obviously, these kind of anime-style games can do very well, like obviously Genshin Impact being a major example. But yeah, I wonder, because the premise is kind of you train up, so you obtain through the gacha system like horse girls, and then you train them up to like compete in races, basically, and they're all named after like Japanese racehorses that have competed.
Premise is so bizarre, and also so like you almost can't believe it's true.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like acceptable. I'm quite excited, interested to see how this does. Like you're saying, anime is pretty huge worldwide now, and this popular. It has its own actual anime film. Etc. So it's a big franchise. And to the your examples, you said Genshin Impact, and I was just looking up, say, Goddess of Victory. So that's kind of it's not the same premise, but it's a very different way of doing it. But it's like basically a scantily clad women, and the camera is firmly set behind them, and that's done well worldwide. Like if you look at the revenue, obviously Japan. Biggest one. Second is, okay, this is according to AtMagic estimates. The rankings could be slightly different because they're quite close. Second is United States, and then just after that is South Korea. That's what I mean. One of those could be higher than the other.
A lot of the kind of anime gacha games that I've covered, it seems to be like Japan, the US, and South Korea are the big three for a lot of them.
But it's done like, and this again just got us a victory, but it's done okay in other countries. In the West. I think this could potentially be a pretty big launch. I don't expect it to do what it has done in Japan, obviously, but I think they could actually make some like serious money to make it worth the international release. And another litmus test for some anime games in the West, if they need more. I think it's already proven, really. Right, we'll close it out. I've got one more story, and it is, of course, about Apple. So if you remember, they got fined 500 million euros at the time, about $570 million for breaching the Digital Markets Act. A bit like in the US, the recent ruling, it was about anti-steering measures, and so they shouldn't really be restricting companies from linking out to external offices outside the App Store. Apple's way around that was very convoluted. They changed they have alternative business terms. They changed them again. They've got a core technology fee. They now own that user. So if it leaves the app, goes to your store and spends after that, apparently Apple still owns that user, which is insane, obviously. So they got fines, and they said, you have to actually comply with the law. So again, sort of the same problems they're having in the US, but where the judge obviously just went ballistic. Apple completely cracked open the App Store. It hasn't quite happened yet, but that seems to be where it's going. Apparently, according to the Financial Times, this story was in, Apple is expected to make concessions on its anti-steering rules. We don't know what they are. The deadline is supposed to be, so we're recording this on June 26th. That is the deadline to comply. So I haven't heard anything yet today. It's the end of the day, so probably won't hear that today. Maybe tomorrow there'll be an announcement, or next week. I'm kind of surprised we didn't just hear it. But that should be coming imminently, and that will be, obviously that could be huge for the global mobile games market. Because if it's the same as what's happened in the US, then it's just a whole new, I want to use the word paradigm, but I hate myself. It's the whole new paradigm for how money is made in the mobile market. And we've kind of discussed before what that means for publishers. More money potentially in their pockets, most likely. Does that mean more money for user acquisition campaigns? Can other genres that maybe the maths didn't work for them to be successful, can they now be kind of profitable in this new market? What's Apple? What ultimately is Apple going to do? The conspiracy theories. I'm sure I heard it. Probably Destruction Fun somewhere where it's just like, is Apple Games kind of a prelude to? I think I speak with Oscar Clark about this as well. Is it potentially a prelude to avoiding all of these regulations? I think that would be extremely, as always say, I'm not a lawyer, but that would be extremely difficult, surely, to pass by regulators and say, oh no, but we've moved it to this store. Look, we actually give all this. So one of the rumors before it was announced, Apple Games during WWDC, was that Apple Games was coming, and it was one of the things it was going to do is it was going to replace Game Center as well. And what Apple Games does now is it has a lot of those features that already existed and some new ones, so achievements, leaderboards, and they can manage and get communications and stuff. Is Apple Games a way for Apple to package all of this on a separate platform and then only have that for games and then charge a 30% for all of that? So it's not just that they're charging 30% for the fee, they're charging it for kind of almost not, it's not the same, but just so I can make it sort of more clear in my head, like a Roblox, right? They charge all this money or UEFN and say, well, we take this fee because we're providing all of this. Whereas when Epic does it outside of UEFN on their own store, they go, well, it's 12% because that's more fair. The way they package these. Anyway, the whole point, big conspiracy. We'll see what Apple does. It won't be good, whatever they do. Right. So that brings us neatly to the end of the show. Thank you, everyone, as always, for listening, and we'll be back again next week. If you have any feedback, anything we've said wrong you want to correct us on, please do reach out, or anything that we should be talking about, obviously reach out for that. Yeah, we'll see you again next week. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.
Bye.